So let's finish this up, you guys. So I'm going to start working on the last bit of these flowers here. I am just going to do the original version of the pattern at this point. So I'm going to do backstitch for these little stems here, which I know you have seen. Is this the right color? This is totally a different color. That's all right. I'm going to go with it. This is not... Oh well. Real life embroidery here. We're just going to go with it. Okay. So I'm doing backstitch. Not that you need to see that again. The updated version has couching for the stem. Lots of things you could do for a stem. Stem stitch, for example. Always a crowd favorite. And I'm using a full strand of floss here. I did a lot of full strand work, so I'm just going to continue with that since these flowers are in front of those little viney, ferny things. This will hopefully make it stand out. Okay, and also I thought it'd be good to do a full ply or full 6 strands because I think sometimes, oh wow guys, satin stitch is intimidating to people when using a full strand, I think. Or maybe just in general it's intimidating. I just thought I would demo again. So here I am doing some satin stitch on this leaf. So I did the center. Here I'm going to do a stitch on the left. And come over here, do a stitch on the right. And that's probably all we'll need to cover those guidelines. And I think that worked what we did before. Remember when we were doing these lines here, I kept them as 2 separate stitches so that when I would come in here, I wouldn't like really fiddle with those directions. Anyways, I think it worked. I don't know if that made any sense, but I'm happy with that. Okay, so now I'm going to do this piece here. So this is just the way I like to do, the order I like to stitch these parts of the flower. If you think this is backwards, then you should definitely not do it this way. I just feel more comfortable with this stitch order. And so after being sick, we had the time change. And I don't know if it's because I'm getting older, but man, I'm struggling. Here, I'm just trying to, there was like a little twist in the 6 strands there, and I was just trying to undo it. I don't know if it actually worked, but it made me feel good. So yeah, like my kid, he adjusted, you know, right away. And he's a very early riser. He's going through a little phase right now where he likes to get up around 5. And my body still thinks that's like 4. And so I'm just kind of hurting. Things are not as sharp as they should be. All right, I think this will be my last stitch here. You can see I didn't exactly cover all the green. There's some poking out, but I'm just going to cover that when I do the next color here, this dark magenta. So I'm going to start away. This is going to get in my way. Here we go. And then come back here. I don't know if you can see my fabric. It looks like it has like some kind of skin disorder. All of these little spots. That's from when I was doing the alternating chain stitch, because I would like park every time and make another hole in my fabric. So when I'm done, I'll come through with a needle and just clean that up. So this is going to be our last video with stitching. I'm going to do like a final kind of summary video. I don't know. It's probably not really a summary, just more of a how to finish your hoop. And also I'm going to talk a little bit about the work that went into making the design. I know this is like, I've showed you the original and the revised, but there's actually like version, like, I don't even know. I was trying to make like a funny joke, but I don't know. There's some like really ugly versions that you've never seen that I think might be useful to look at, because, I mean, these don't just magically pop out of me. And once in a while, I'll have like a moment of inspiration and it's just perfect the first time around. But other times it's like there's a lot of revisions before it sees the light of day. So yeah, if that's interesting to you, you should check it out. If not, then you won't hurt my feelings. Don't worry. Okay. Probably the last stitch there. And then I have my final color, this other magenta. And I'm just going from the tip of the shape. So, and that kind of determines then what my stitch direction is going to be. If you want all of your stitches to go in the same direction, that's another way to do it. You can see like this is like angled versus the dark magenta I did. Need to pull that little stray guy through. So yeah, just more satin stitch. I like going up away and then coming down towards the previous stitch so I can get really close. Again, it's how I have like a better accuracy when I go down, right? I guess you could argue that you'd want better accuracy when you're doing the edge of the shape, but for me I like to be able to go down next to those previous stitches. I have this like weird paranoia that I'm going to disrupt the previous stitches. I don't know, here, maybe for the other side I'll go in the other direction. Come on, little guy. Okay, I may need to pull him through at a different time. So technically I should keep all my stitches in the same direction. Something about the way the 6 strands are on here, like how they lay, can kind of look a little different if you do your stitches in the opposite direction. But that's not, I don't really care about that so much. So, see, nothing bad happened. Just gonna tighten my fabric here a second. That's definitely an important thing when you're doing satin stitch. I mean, it's important when you're doing any stitch, but I would say especially with satin stitch and thread painting. So yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with doing it this way. And also there would be nothing wrong with doing this magenta first and then the dark magenta and then the green, if that makes more sense to you. Oh man, I'm regretting using that green. It looks so different now. I must have put the thread on the needles at night when I had bad lighting, so I didn't realize I had the wrong color. So that's a nice point. Like when you're doing any kind of picking of colors, use lovely natural lighting. That'll make a difference. Okay, that one's done. Next. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I don't know if I did it right. Never really done a stitch along. And, I don't know. I had fun talking to myself. It gets so lonely here with the cats. I found my other thimble. Oh no, I have a problem in the back. So that was a lie. I went to the store and they had them at the store again, so I bought new ones. See? Pretty cool, huh? My poor hands are really beat up right now. cat scratches, and then last month I did another video for Blueprint, so I had to go get my nails done. And when you get those nails taken off, it just really, it's not good for your natural nails. They just kind of, if they don't break, they do awful things like bend backwards. So that's been a good time. Just been having to keep them really short. They're pretty useless, but they'll grow back. So while I'm here, I'm just gonna go ahead and do this leaf so they don't have to travel back with my floss. Okay guys, I hope you had a lot of fun stitching along with me. I hope you tried something new. I hope you learned something. To finish your hoop in the hoop, it's pretty simple. I used to just trim and glue using some variety of Aleene's, or you can use a glue gun. Then I use these little clamps. Let it dry. I'm not doing this as much as I was. The reason being, if this gets stretched out for any reason, you can't really fix it. So if it gets saggy, you're out of luck unless you want to rip all this up and retighten it, which is kind of a pain. I have done that. But if something happens where you set this down and something's on top of it, like a cat, for example, because cats don't know not to step on these, you know, the fabric's going to get stretched out. If it's just hanging on a wall in a safe place, probably not a problem. You might just want to make sure you are using an acid-free or archival glue so that there's never any yellowing in the future. If you're paranoid about that at all, don't use glue. This is a very simple way to do it instead. You just use running stitch along the back and then cinch it like a hoodie, and that's it. If I ever need to come in here and retighten it, I can do it really easy. I can just snip this and re-stitch. Either way, once you've done that with the glue or the cinching, you could always remove, in theory, here it comes. You can always remove that outer hoop at this point. The reason you would want to do that is if maybe you wanted to paint or stain your hoop. There we go. That was hard. Paint, stain, varnish, whatever you want to do if you want to do something fancy there. And also at this point you can change, you know, which way is up. Which way was up? I think it was something like this. Okay. And then to hang on the wall. This I like because you can just hang from a nail here. When you have this going on, you don't have that lip really anymore. So you can hang from a ribbon. You could actually sew a little loop back here that you could hang from. Use a pretty ribbon. There's a lot of different options. So for these two, I'm going to trim and finish them like this. Maybe I'll stain one. I don't know. We'll see. So really quick, I just want to talk about the inspiration for this piece and how I go about designing and embroidery. So I got this book at Costco during Christmas time. It's a lovely reference book. You can always find photos of all kinds of plants, flowers, everything on Pinterest, just doing a Google image search, whatever. But you can see here, I had my sketchbook and I was just going through the book and using this as a guide, kind of doodling and finding cool shapes that I liked and cool flower shapes, not necessarily worrying about color at this point, just looking for different shapes. So you can see these flowers here correspond over here to the lilac, and they ended up here. And they changed, obviously, just because it's inspiration doesn't mean they obviously don't look like that anymore. And then in the new version, right, with the alternating petal colors, like those don't look anything like this, right? But you can see how it evolves. And then this flower, you can see, ended up here. I actually couldn't find this in the book. I don't know where that came from. So from going from a sketch like this to the design, it can be simple or it can be complicated. I love tracing paper. So you can see I was just kind of working different ideas here. It's hard to see. I'll cut it over here. Here's that pink flower. This looks pretty close to this design. Let's see, it did change, like the number of flowers. Here's those two. Here's our little lilacs. These shapes here changed. Right here I had them like heart-shaped leaves, and they turned into like more just flat leaves. So yeah, it went through a lot of iterations, and of course here I didn't even have color yet. My inspiration for this piece, it ended up in Taproot magazine. They were just looking for something to go with the theme of bloom, so of course, you know, flowers. So from there I was looking at different colors to use, and I think first I started with this one, and it just wasn't doing, this was just too heavy, too dark. The color of the fabric I mean, it's gray. I don't know what I was thinking. I mean, I like the look of these colors on gray, but they don't shout spring. They don't shout. It wasn't working. So then I was like, I know, I'll try this color fabric. And I don't know, it just clashes with these colors. And also they were just looking so dark on here. And you can also see I was playing with different kinds of stitching, like really heavy satin stitch here versus here I decided to have it be more of an outline. And then for this flower, I didn't even know what that stitch is, but I didn't like it. It looks like a sea creature kind of. Actually, it looks like a sea star is exactly what that looks like. But it was not supposed to look like a sea star, so I scrapped that too. Finally started working on this one, and I remember, I think I had it oriented something like this. And I still wasn't happy with it. And finally, I was just kind of like throwing it around and I tilted it like this. And I was like, oh, there it is. There's the design. So the moral of the story is just keep trying, keep playing. If something doesn't work, it's okay to abandon this stuff. This is probably going in the trash now. I've been holding on to it so I could share it with you guys. And it's okay to do that. If it's not working, then let it go. Here's another example. I don't know if you recognize this pattern of mine. Here's the doodles for it. All I did was I was just drawing these from looking at like a Google image search of like tropical leaves. I was just drawing them on here and I was like, huh, that actually looks okay. So I came through with tracing paper. I drew a circle on it and I drew them in here. You know, today I use like fancier equipment, like I use Adobe Illustrator and I have a tablet where I can draw, but you don't need that stuff, guys. You can just use a pencil, some paper, and some tracing paper and create a really cool pattern. So I think it all just comes back to doodling and letting yourself make mistakes and just having fun, okay? Have fun, you guys. Catch you next time.